there's not because there's a smaller population and there isn't as many people involved in the music industry, it's tougher to network. Like, I mean, it's really tough for five musicians yet, to go out there with a plan of attack. Like, you need people helping you, managers and booking agents, and just, you need that information and education on how to go about doing it the right way. Like, it's important to finally go out there and do the tour, but there's got to be some kind of plan. Like, you have to know which venues you're going to hit, where you're going to hit your crowd. There's a lot of planning. I don't know if there's enough people involved in the industry here that can help you with that. It's all networking. You have to have a bunch of people behind you to really make it work, especially on a national level.
Good night, Irene! Good night, Irene! Another turn of the screws. Stop turning my screws! Stop turning my screws! Just stop turning my screws! Just stop it! I can have it right now. Smelling glue in the corner. All alone on the beach. That girl, she's just a sneak. Well, I can do it right now. Blood on my nails. Nails in my blood. Irene, you had it all. Another turn of the screws. Stop turning my screws. Another turn of the screws. Just stop turning my screws. Stop it, man.
Yeah, I think we were talking to labels, but labels are always just talking and stuff. And I don't know, from what I've heard, I mean, I'm not too experienced with the American side of the record label thing, but it seems Canadian record labels are a little more careful when they're looking at bands. They're scared of going to anything new. I think it's really I think there's a lot of pressure to sell albums, and it's just I think Canadian audiences aren't geared towards new things as much, and I think a lot of labels are scared to venture out into a band like us or other bands that are sort of doing the same thing as us because they're not sure whether we're going to sell albums or that we're going to fall flat in our face.
Face of music has been changed since like 1991, and like a lot of bands that we've either been in or know of in our hometown or any bands that have traveled through, like all the punk rock bands that are really big now, they were once independent bands for a long time. It's existed, it's always existed, and the major label thing was like, the way it used to work was just like how you had phrased it, was people would just make tapes and send them in quite anonymously and quite unprofessionally, and usually it was up to the A&R guy to go to producer and say, well, I got this really cool band, what do you think? Can you do something with them? And then you try and make them into mega superstars, and a lot of those superstars turned into dinosaurs and made really bad music, and it died out, and it was time for bands such as ourselves, such as, you know, a lot of Saskatoon bands, Uncle Alice and The Drowned, and to go the independent route. I mean, it's like something you just end up doing. It's not even something you think of. It's like you make a tape, your friends go to your shows, you start doing more shows, and basically your band becomes a business, and you could call it anything you want, a business or independence or whatever have you, but it does turn into a business. And so that sort of feature about music, and in particular like Saskatchewan music has always been there. And it's really funny, like you know what's gonna happen is like all these major label bands, they're all gonna like fizzle out and they're gonna become independent bands. It's gonna start working itself backwards because it's easier to make money that way. You make more money being an independent band, but you go into debt slower as opposed to signing with a major label, because as soon as you sign, your advance is like, if you get an advance for $500,000, then you're in debt for $500,000, and there's no sure way you're ever gonna like get yourself out of that. I mean, like, plus it's easy for independent bands to get like factor loans and you know, there's all these like organizations that are able to help you out, and friends will help you out, and other bands will just help you out, you know, and you help each other, and it's like this big sort of interconnected, strange scene that, I don't know, it's just always existed, and a lot of people don't take advantage of it. A lot of people still think you can sit in a basement forever and try and write songs and send it in, but it just doesn't work that way anymore. You have to work, you know, you have to make it a job.
How do you feel the response has been outside of the province toward your guys' music?
We've only played outside the province 2 or 3 times. People like it. People tell us that it sounds really honest, which I think is a big Saskatchewan thing, the honesty of the music. Playing in big cities like Vancouver, I saw a lot of bands where the look and the stage moves and the sound were more important than the songs and what the musicians were trying to express. Bands from the prairies, I've found, are much more into expressing something and going up on stage and belting out some songs and saying, this is what we feel, this is what's true.
You and I have never been alone with all the others at home, and over here across miles and miles today my phone rings. It must have been 10 years or so since you said hello. We've been busy growing up, chasing life and throwing stones. You got a phone in your car and a child of your own, and over here across miles and miles I think of you.
Some of the material that I have written has definitely been regionally based. But I think probably the inspiration for most of my material has come from, basically life experiences and how it's affected me and how it's affected the people around me.
Are real long here. It inspires you to write a lot of music. Listen to these guys, it's proof of it. I mean, this is an inspirational place to be. It's a stark place to be, but the reality of the beauty of it all makes you creative. It just seems to make you creative. I don't know, it brings it out in you. That's what probably be a better way to put it. There's a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of culture in this place. And it's really good to see. It's a beautiful thing to see.
And if you ask me to leave, then I probably will. I just pack up my senses and go. Oh, these eyes are wide open, but they had their fill. So I'll pack up my senses. You know I've been true, but I have nothing but blisters to show. Pack up my senses, visions and thunderclaps, flowers and chocolate and snow. I'll pack up my senses and go.
Everybody is saying that I have to leave the province to get somewhere. Just about everybody. So far it's been easy to stay here because it's a place where you can make a lot of mistakes, and not a lot of people are going to see you make those mistakes. It's a good place to get your growth. I want to stay here though. There's no way I can see myself moving to Vancouver or Toronto or to the States to do it. Just because everything that I've done musically has come from being in this place. I think it's a very place-oriented music that I play, and I think going somewhere else would sap me, would change what I'm playing. Definitely staying here.
Time that I look in your eyes, I see the soul inside of me. Always running wild and free, reckless as I could be. I'll be as sorry as I can be.
We're looking at trying to do the same thing in the sense, sort of marketing the Saskatchewan sound, which they've done on the East Coast. The East Coast sound is big and it's hot, and we can do the same thing here. We're working right now on a little bit of research on exactly what they've done there, but they received a lot of provincial government support. I mean, they were facing a crisis in the sense of a lack of industry on the East Coast, and somebody was smart enough and clever enough to realize that they have this whole blanket of possibilities in their culture sitting right there. And they take control of their culture, which we don't do, you know. They really do. They take ownership for it, and they support it. And we have to do the same thing, and I mean, stages like this are one way of doing that. I mean, the stuff that's going on here is just fantastic, you know. I don't think you should ever have to turn the radio on and listen to stuff from people that are dead and people that'll never play where you live. This stuff is here and it's happening now, and it's every bit as good and every bit as national and international quality as anything that's out there on the radio these days.
Up to the sky, you'll see your friends way up high. When you don't know what to do, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, turn around, turn around, I'm with you. Turn around, I'm with you.
Yeah, I heard somebody say the other day that they thought it was important to take back your culture. And I think that that's a very big part of our Saskatchewan cultures. We're thought of as a backwater, and we've always had very, very talented people here, going all the way back to Joni Mitchell. And original music is probably one of the greatest expressions of originality that there is. So it's very important that, I believe, to promote these young people in doing their own songs and their own lyrics, their own music, rather than just always doing covers of somebody else's songs.
Canadian music scene is hot right now. Keep in touch with it, man. It's just smoking. Canadian scene is just smoking better than anything.
Support Canadian music, support original music.
Buy Canadian music.